I missed the whole live stream. I was actually on another platform because I've created a lot of these schedules, and for some reason I was in a different studio, with this StreamYard, right? I was actually in a different studio, and for some reason I went live, and I thought I was, actually delivering, my presentation, and I finished it. In fact, we started from exactly 6 all the way to 6:40, and then I was like, where was the live stream? In fact, where did I actually go live? I mean, was it LinkedIn or where? I checked, and the what do you call it? This event is still coming soon. Like, it's still there as starting soon for some reason, right? So I had to just do this again. And the thing is that this is exactly what we're going to be doing every single day. So if I don't show up, then it's not good, right? So I'm actually doing this thing again so that I'll be able to meet the expectations of our audience, all right? So first and foremost, I just want to thank everyone for coming through. This is the first, live stream that we are doing for SHEQXEL, and this is something we're going to be doing every single day. So we are going to throw more light on how to meet the requirements of the ISO standard, looking at various processes within the standard, and then some of the the records that you can use to demonstrate documentary evidence or to demonstrate compliance with the standard, so that when you have an audit from any certification, but you're going to do very well because you have a lot of records, right? You have records that shows how you're planning, how you are doing, how you are checking, and how you are acting, right? So that is the PDCA cycle of continual improvement, all right? So take note that management system comprises of policies, procedures, processes, plans, right? And process owners, workers, equipment, all of these make up the management system. In fact, with these processes, there are actually people that we identify as process owners. And these process owners are playing a very critical role. And for that reason, we need to make sure that they are competent. Apart from that, each employee has a safety responsibility. They have, various responsibilities that are relevant for the management system. And for that reason, we need to make sure that they are competent. So everybody actually contribute towards the goal of our management system, whether it's health and safety management system, quality management system, or environmental management system. So these are very, very important. And the role of everyone, we need to make sure that they are competent. So there's a training requirement in the ISO standard that requires that organizations must identify the training, the competencies or the necessary competence that affect its OHS performance, environmental performance, and quality management system. So we are going to look at training as a process and how we can ensure compliance with the training requirement to ensure that we are meeting the requirement of the ISO standard. Okay, so that is basically, let me see if I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so I'm just going to do that right now. Share screen. And okay. All right, so I believe that you can see my screen. So let me just confirm on my mobile phone to see if I'm actually sharing my screen. All right, so perfect. We are actually sharing our presentation. Okay, so the essence of this presentation is to throw more light into training as a requirement of the ISO standard and how we are supposed to demonstrate compliance with training. Okay, so when it comes to the ISO standard, the requirement for training, you can actually find them in clause 7.2, right, of the ISO 9001 standard, or 14001 or 45001, right? So this is not anything new to most of us because we've been ensuring compliance with the standard, right? So the quality management system, the environmental management system, the health and safety management system, the standard requires that organizations must determine the necessary competence of workers that affect the OHS performance or its OHS performance, environmental performance, and quality management system. And we want to make sure that every employee is able to perform their roles and responsibilities, and we need to, before we even engage them, understand the competence requirement for the positions that we are looking for workers to occupy. And we want to make sure that once workers are engaged, they are already competent on the basis of education, training, and experience to occupy these positions. And once they occupy the position, we need to make sure that we are maintaining their competence by performing specific actions. These actions, we have to also make sure that these actions that we take to maintain competence of workers are equally effective, right? So a lot of these requirements, it requires that we do what we call training need assessment for each job position. And once we come out with the training needs, then we need to come out with a training program. All right, so the training program has a particular requirement that it must meet. Once we come out with a training program, we need to make sure that we have a training plan of how we are going to carry out, or when within the year, within a given period, that we are going to be carrying out this training for the workers. And once we come out with our training program, we need to then come out with what we call a training matrix, where we use to demonstrate competence of the worker by making sure that all the training that they're supposed to take, we are actually closing them to ensure that they are competent, and we are reviewing and doing refresher training based on the type of training, whether it's a mandatory training or a job specific training, right? And again, we need to make sure that we are doing what we call training assessment. After you carry out the training, you need to do some sort of assessment on the employee to ascertain their level of understanding of the topic. And we need to make sure that, once we carry out all of these, the process of training, the training as a process itself, whoever carries out the training, we need to equally verify the effectiveness of the training by doing some sort of evaluation to assess whether the training was even effective, it met the requirement, the expectations, it was able to achieve the intended purpose, right? So these are some of the requirements as far as the ISO standard is concerned. That is clause 7.2 on competence. Okay, so as I did mention, training need assessment is very, very important, and training needs assessment, we are doing it on each of the job positions. Before we even think of recruiting, we need to do a job analysis on the job position. The job position is probably, let's say, a welder. We are looking at what are the various health and safety requirements for the job position, what are basically the hazards and risks that we want to make sure the worker is able to manage. We want to make sure that what are basically the critical task that must be carried out to meet quality standard in terms of the fact that once the person performs the job, it meets expectation. So based on all of these requirements, then we do proper evaluation and we make sure that the job specification is very clear, that before we recruit someone, we know that the person must have this type of certification on the basis of education, training, and experience before he's recruited, right? So that is job analysis right there. So a lot of companies actually have done their training needs assessment for all job positions, and they have all the required job specification even before recruitment, right? And once they recruit, they do all this evaluation, all the interview, just to confirm that this person can actually do this job, because he has to be competent for the job, right? So the training need analysis assessment actually helps us to even ensure that we are recruiting properly as an important step in competence, maintaining competence of a workforce, right? Now, after we do our training needs, what we need to do is that we need to then come out with our training program. So if we determine the training need, that this person must have skills, must have knowledge in, let's say, work at height, right? Because his job role is that he'll be working at height. What is the training program that we develop to ensure that this person understand all the relevant requirements for work at height? He knows the hazards and risk. He knows how to wear, fall arrest equipment like safety harness. He knows how to secure his safety harness to with a lanyard to a suitable anchor point. He knows how to work at height. He knows his roles and responsibilities regarding preventing drop objects. He knows, how to use suitable working platforms. He knows how to use, let's say, a man rider. He knows how to secure his tools at height. I mean, we are looking at all of these requirements. So that means that we have to have a training program, and the training program must meet some of these requirements. The requirement is that it has to have a clear objective, learning objective. All right. We need to consider the method of delivery of the training. We need to look at whether it's going to be classroom training, on the job training, it's going to be an e-learning or whatever. We need to also make sure that we have considered some type of assessment, practical exercises and simulations. We need to equally consider verifying understanding after the training has been done. So this make up the training program. So the training program is very, very important. And there are a lot of training materials that meet these requirements. In fact, we have a lot of these training programs on some of our websites, and you can actually look into them. All of the training programs come with, the learning objective, the PowerPoint presentation, some of the quizzes and exercises that you can use to assess, understanding of the subject, and the fact that you can equally do practicals, right? So training program covers a lot of things. In fact, a lot of you guys know all the training programs you carry out at your workplace. It could be training program on how to do risk assessment, training on how to do workplace inspection using a particular checklist, training program on how to, operate a forklift, because that's like a competence-based training program. It can even be like a regulatory requirement that these people must take this training because it's required by law. All of these are training programs. So training programs are practically the topics, but it's not just the topics alone. They are actually presentation documents. These documents can be reviewed by an auditor to ensure that these programs are fit for purpose. They're able to ensure that worker is competent after the training has been carried out and it meets the requirements of the ISO standard, right? So this is basically an action that we use to maintain competence. So that is training program, right? So again, once you have your training program, it is important that you equally plan the training. So planning the training means that you have taken time to identify all of these programs. When you want to carry out these programs, who is going to carry out the program, is the person competent, and the mode of training, right? So there's a need for training plan. This is basically a schedule that you use to plan training for a year, so that you communicate with all your stakeholders to demonstrate commitment to training, that you have committed to train your workers, and this is the evidence that you have a training plan for the year. All right, so the training plan is very, very important. Apart from identifying, putting together a training plan, you need to equally have a training matrix. So the training matrix is now how you show working. How do you demonstrate that you are making effort to train your workers across your organization? Because it's not just one worker that you have to train. You have to train all your workers, because you've identified their training needs. You've come up with a training program. You've now have a training plan, and now you have a training matrix. This training matrix helps you to maintain the competence of your workers, because once you plan this training, you've identified all of them. Now you are showing working with a training matrix where you are able to close all of this training, and this training is able to estimate a score. And this score, we use it to establish the fact that our workers are competent, and it's actually a KPI, a key performance indicator, that what is your training score? My training score is 100% or 50 or 90%, because all the workers have been trained as per their training needs. All right, so the training matrix is basically a template where you list all the training programs that they're supposed to take, and then you make sure that you're following up and you're closing them out one after the other, and overall you're able to estimate a score, and that score is an important key performance indicator that you're able to communicate to your stakeholders that you are making effort to maintain the competence of your workers. So after the training program, you need to show records of training. Another record of training is attendance, right? Training, basically attendance, to show that workers have indeed taken the training. It could even be, certificate of completion. It could even be any form of record that you use to show that this person did the training and this is the record. All right, so training attendance is very, very important. Certificate of completion is equally very important, right? Again, another important requirement is that the trainer, whoever did the training, take note that the training plan helps you to gather relevant information to plan training. And one of the requirements is that the person who does the training must be competent, and even the training material must be compliant. So you need to verify the certificate of the trainer that he has the capacity to train the particular course that you are planning for the training for the workers. You need to ensure that the training material meets all the requirements. So these are some of the basically how you demonstrate compliance with training as an important requirement of the ISO standard. All right, so this is just a summary of all of these training. We have the training plan. You are showing your commitment to train for the year. All the programs that you've planned for the year, you have it on your training plan. Now you have the training matrix. You are using to show working that this is how you maintain the competence of your workers. You have training assessment, basically assessment, quizzes, exercises that you use to verify understanding. And you have records. You have records to show that this person took this test. You scored 100%. It's an evidence that this person understood the training. All of these are records, right? And then again, the skill gap analysis. Take note, this is even supposed to come first, right? The skill gap analysis or the training need assessment. That is very, very important because that's how you identify the training programs in the first place. For now, we don't have a template for that. We are still building a template, so we're going to show that in due time. So again, the certificate records, right? Back to say that, yeah, this person, whatever he said here, I understood it. The objectives were very clear. He adopted different method of, doing the training. He gave a lot of examples, which we understood. Overall, he asked a lot of, he helped us to understand the subject. So basically, we are evaluating the training as a process. And again, we can even look at auditing the training process itself, where we are verifying the training plan, training matrix, training assessment, skill gap, all of this stuff, right? So these are the training records that we are using to demonstrate compliance with the training requirement in the ISO standard. So what is the benefit of training in the first place? According to the ISO standard, we know that when we are complying with the standard, we are carrying out training, we are improving the competence of our workers, and that helps to improve the quality of product and services because workers are competent. They are carrying out their work as expected. They are meeting quality standards, client expectation. They have good customer service. They're able to prevent, defect in the process of producing a service and all of that. So at the end of the day, we're able to meet quality standard, meet customer expectations. There's fewer defects in production and all of that. Again, efficiency, because workers can perform their work very, very fast. They reduce any wastage. We're able to optimize the process. And again, we're able to ensure that workers are following safe work practices. So we're able to prevent accidents and injuries. And then we're able to ensure that, the incident rate is reduced to the barest minimum. So once we're able to reduce incident rates, workers are happy. There's high engagement, by the workers as far as safety is concerned. Their commitment level is very high because they are competent. They've been trained. That helps to boost the morale of the workers. It reduces staff turnover. It increases productivity at the workplace. And at the end of the day, employer benefit because there's more profit for the employer, right? Potential to increase production is high because of all of these factors, because workers are competent. Okay. So basically, the conclusion is that we need to invest in our workforce by carrying out training and maintaining their competence. And when we are maintaining all of these competencies of the workers, we need to show evidence. And we can show evidence by making sure that we have done our training need assessment to identify the training program for each job position. We have come up with a training plan that shows our commitment to train workers for a period, maybe for a year. We have our training matrix that we use to demonstrate compliance, that we are maintaining the competence of our workforce, and at any given point in time, we know the level of competence across board. We are doing training assessment to ensure that when we do the verifying their understanding using quizzes, exercises, and various methods of delivery, you equally want to make sure that even the training program itself, the material that we are using, the trainer who is carrying out the training, all of these people are competent, the material is compliant, and most importantly, we need to do our training evaluation, which means that we are assessing training as a process where we are verifying the trainer's competence or the trainer's effort in improving competence. So workers will have to complete a questionnaire to confirm that they understood the method of delivery was perfect. There were a lot of examples that was shown to actually make the understanding much easier and all of that, so that we are able to improve the process. All right. All of these helps us to fulfill the requirement of plan, do, check, act cycle of continual improvement. Okay. So this brings our presentation to an end, but we are going to look at a practical example of what a training plan looks like. Okay. So that's pretty much end of this very presentation. I believe that it was insightful. So the part 2 of this presentation is the fact that we're going to look at the practical application of this, and we are focusing only on training plan. Tomorrow we're going to look at the training matrix, all right, and subsequent live streams we're going to look at other templates. Okay, so let's get straight onto my screen and let's see what is displaying now. Right, so perfect. So we have this training plan right here, and as we did indicate, the training plan is helping us to meet the requirements of the ISO standard, where we say that we are committed to training. We have our plan for the year, and this is an evidence that we are making effort to train our workers. Okay, so basically I'll just try to create space right here so that I could see my screen, because I have another screen right there. Okay, all right, so all right, so basically what's the purpose of this training plan? The training plan is that we are trying to plan training programs for a year to demonstrate our commitment to improve competence and awareness of our workers. Okay, so basically, like all of our templates, we have the table of content. All right, so take note that our templates are all unique. They all follow similar structure. So that's just basically all of us, making sure we are maintaining standards. So we have the the table of content, and that helps us to just navigate without having to use this, scroll bar right here. So on the approved list, that is more like the settings of the template. We want to make sure that we are keeping the names consistent. So this is where you can predefine your set of parameters, right? Because this is a template. A template is basically helping us to input our own data based on our own terminologies. So we have done that for you. That is a approved list. So we have the training modes. It could be online, classroom, mixed, or practical, right? So the status can be open and closed. List of tutors, we have the names right here. In case you exhaust this very table, all you need to do is just insert, a lot of rows within this table from the middle, and you can accommodate enough, list of parameters. Okay, so this is basically what the training plan looks like. A training plan is for us to demonstrate our commitment to training our workers by communicating with our stakeholders that these are the training programs we planned for the year, and this is currently the status of it, right? So we have various training programs under various categories. We have construction safety, hazardous substances, personal safety, safety administration, transport safety, health and hygiene, emergency preparedness, process safety, confined space, right? These are the training needs that we've identified for our workers. So these are the programs, right? Now take note that these training programs, you probably have PowerPoint presentations, right, to support, or that's how you're going to outsource. You're probably going to outsource some of these training programs to an external person. Okay, it can be done in-house, it can be done by an external person to support your organizations carry out this training, right? So even with regards to training programs, if you're outsourcing training to an external person, you need to make sure that you have a lot of information about the training that you're going to carry out. So the program itself, they have to send to you that, yes, this is the personal fall protection system. This is the training presentation. So you can have a look, you can review and justify that it is adequate to train your workers, because you have to do your due diligence. Even if you're outsourcing, you do your due diligence. If it is in-house, you have all your training, presentations or training materials which meet the requirements of the ISO standard, right? It has to have learning objectives. You need to consider method of delivery. You need to make sure that it has, mode of assessment, exercises and quizzes and all of that. Okay, so once you have your training programs, you need to know the facilitator, the trainer. So you need to check, okay, this trainer, he has all the necessary competence. You need to verify. So you need to collect a lot of documents, certificate of competence that you can carry out this training, the CV and everything. You keep it right there, like file it for audit purpose, that the trainers for these programs, you already have their relevant certificates and everything that proves that they can train. If it is an in-house person, then you need to make sure the person is competent to do to carry out this training. They must have a trainer certificate to carry out this training, right? You need to have the mode of assessment, the mode of delivery, whether it's online, classroom, practicals, mix, whatever. Okay, take note that these are the parameters, and you can actually select from the drop-down list, right? This drop-down list is all coming from here. So that means that you can add to this list. Basically, you can add to the list and you can select from the drop-down list, right? So that's the latest entry I just put in there. So basically what we are trying to do is that once you have all your training programs, the tutor, the mode of training, you need to plan, right? You need to plan the training. I'm planning for each of the months. I'm going to be carrying out all of these training. Okay, once all of these have been planned, it's going to show us open, right? Now, the moment you close all of them, automatically it's going to show as closed. So this itself gives us another system of verifying that we are following the plan. This is the plan that we put together to carry out training, and we are following the plan. We are closing all the training, and all of them must be closed. So as usual, we have our dashboard. So this dashboard helps us to visualize basically whatever is going on in here. Okay, so what we need to do is that we need to now refresh the workbook, and everything is going to update. So currently the status of our training plan is that we've achieved 98% completion. Everything that we planned for the year, we've been able to achieve 98%. Okay, so on the training plan dashboard, we have the number of training programs, how many have been planned, how many have been closed. So we can filter here. Okay, how many have been closed, how many are open, how many have been closed. All of them are here, right? We can also look at the various modes of delivery, whether it's classroom, online, mixed, and practical, and we have overall score. So basically everything that's happening here can be shown on the dashboard. Okay, so we are counting how many have been completed. So all of this are showing how many have been completed. We can actually so basically we can filter by how many have been closed, how many are open, and we can look at various, whether online, whether practical, and all of that. So assuming that all of them are still, basically we've not carried them, we've not closed all of them. Let's see what happens. So all of them are still open, right? When we come to the dashboard and we refresh all, it will show that we have a lot of them that are still planned, right? So that's basically what we have in there. Okay, so it is important that we close all of the training programs, all the training that we've planned for the month. We need to close all of them. When we close all of them, this what will happen. All right, so all the programs that we planned for the year, we've closed all of them, right? So all I do is I'll refresh the workbook, and that's basically what we have here. Everything has been closed. We have 100% completion of what we planned for the year. These were what were the classroom, training, the online training, the one that were mixed. Take note that all of these parameters, you can change them in the approved list, right? I can change them. You can put whatever you want to put in there, and that would actually reflect on the dashboard. Okay, so these are individual reports. You can look at it. Basically, we have a total of 110 training programs that we planned. These are individual reports which we used for the dashboard, right? So that's pretty much. We also have this one, and all of these are individual reports. So all these reports are what we use for the dashboard. Okay, so that is basically what this training plan is all about. Okay, if you want to change the logo, you can always do that by just unprotect the worksheet and replace the logo. Okay, so this basically brings our presentation to an end. We started off by looking at training as an important requirement of the ISO standard, right? And we looked at the fact that all the training requirements basically can be found in clause 7.2, and that is basically competence. And this requires that organizations must identify all the competence requirements for workers to be able to carry out their work effectively, to ensure that we are able to improve health and safety performance, environmental performance, quality management system, right? And we need to do training need analysis or assessment to identify all the training programs. We need to make sure that we develop a training program that meets these requirements. We need to make sure that we have adequate records of training. All the training activities that we carry out, we must make sure that we have the records to show. And the records are the training plan, the training matrix, the records of training, such as the attendance sheets, training assessment to assess understanding of the workers on the subject, keeping records of, showing evidence with regards to the training material that it is compliant, keeping certificates of the trainer to make sure that the trainer is competent, and making sure that there's records of training, such as training certificates, right, of the workers, and ensuring that all of these processes, you are evaluating it to make sure that we are compliant with the ISO standard. Okay, so that is basically the end of this presentation. I just want to thank everybody for passing through, for showing up. All right, so we are looking to improve. Where's the all right, so we want to thank everybody for basically passing by. I believe that whatever we discussed today has been very insightful, and we look forward to engaging with all of you. If you have any questions, you can always ask in the comment section, whichever platform where you're joining, whether Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Just put in your question in there. I'll make sure to answer on our next episode, right? So tomorrow we are coming back again, same time, 6 p.m. exactly. We're gonna start wherever you're joining in from. I don't know, we're actually starting at 6 p.m. GMT. Okay, so just keep your eyes on our page and let's engage. All right, so thank you all, and see you again in another video. Bye for now.